And speaking of lockdowns of the news that is taking place, I'm we had a little bit of an issue with Simona Papadopoulos getting through on Skype, but I believe we have her now on a call.
Hi, nice to connect with you.
Hi,
Can you?
Simona. Thanks for joining us. I greatly appreciate it, and I'm sorry they had a little bit of trouble getting through there. How
No,
are
thank
you
you.
tonight?
I'm very good. I'm equally tired of the lockdown. Today I've been to the beach, and I was so upset that I had the guards trying to stop me. You can't enjoy life anywhere. I mean, it's just like it's really too
May,
much
may
right
I
now.
ask which beach this was? Was this in LA County or?
Yes, in the Lake County.
Okay.
It was, yes, uh,
Wow.
nearby, not far from Palos Verdes, something like that.
Okay. Okay. So, all
Mhm.
right. So, folks who don't know who you are married to George Papadopoulos, and obviously, a major key player in everything that led up to the Russian collusion narrative and everything that moved, with the Still dossier and everything. Tell us, just for our viewers and our listeners, a little bit about your relationship. I believe I understand that you actually worked for, it was it Joseph Mifsud, who he was kind of the go-between what Russia and the Still dossier situation. Can you explain that for everybody that may not
Uh,
know the history?
Yes, I'll try to make the situation as sorry, there's something here, as simple as possible.
Okay.
Joseph Mifsud is the infamous professor that got the investigation started. Is the one that met George in Rome on 2016, talking about this dirt on Hillary Clinton, planting the bomb in the Trump campaign of the so-called inexistent collusion. My connection is that I used to work for Joseph Mifsud years before, and when I was an advisor at European Parliament, but also later on at the London Centre of International Law Practice. Joseph Mifsud is someone that doesn't fit the profile of the Russian agent promoting the interests of Donald Trump against Hillary Clinton, as Mueller tried to portray him in the status of offense and the entire operation that it's known as Crossfire Hurricane. I testified to the Congress about this individual on July 2018, and the transcript of this testimony has been recently released. I would say like 10 days ago. And in this testimony, I make clear the connection of Joseph Mifsud with Western intelligence, in particular with the Clinton Foundation. So we are talking about somebody who is tied to the socialist group in Europe, who is a donator to the Clinton Foundation, who is a professor at the Link campus, which trains a Western intelligence asset in Rome, but that Mueller wanted us to believe to be a Russian agent. I got swallowed into the investigation, of course, because of this connection, and my testimony was completely truthful according to my direct knowledge of the
Yeah.
facts. So that's, I think, a pretty important piece of information when we think about the fact that they completely ignore the pedigree of Joseph Mifsud,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
critical but
So,
Trump supporter.
Simona, so unfortunately, we're heading to a commercial here in a couple of minutes. So quickly, if you can talk a little bit about the work that you did before you actually met George, and how you got put into that situation where you were representing Italy with the EU, correct?
No, I was actually working directly for the European Union. So I was
Okay.
not representing Italy. I just passed the competition to work as a legal advisor to the President Office of the European Union for 7 years in Brussels. It's all about the European Parliament is an institution that, together with the European Commission and European Council, provide EU legislation in the member among the member states, and in particular, the European Parliament, we supervised the legislative proposal coming from the European Commission. So I was working on legislation, in particular on child abduction, so policies in children protection. This was
Yeah.
my expertise. And I've been managing an office within the presidency tasks, which was devoted to the protection of childhood. So this is pretty much my expertise.
Gotcha. Simona, we're going to carry you through the commercial here because we obviously got a late start and we've got a lot more to talk about, including some breaking news that's taken place today. We've got Simona Papadopoulos, and folks, this breaking news, we're going to have it here at Real Side Radio with Dave Sussman. Don't go away, folks. We'll be right back after the break. Dave Sussman at realside.com. You can find me and my show, Whiskey Politics. You can find that at ricochet.com, YouTube, and find us on Facebook as well, Whiskey Politics. We're having great conversations, and we're having a great conversation right now with Simona Papadopoulos, who's just telling us a little bit about her background. And I am somebody, Simona, who reads a lot of news. I'm a voracious consumer of everything that is going on, and I really don't know a lot about your story and background before meeting George. And it's interesting to me, you're working with the EU as an advisor, and obviously you understand what is happening in Italy right now with COVID and everything else. But we were talking that you worked for Joseph Massoud, and you just explained his relationship there. And you had some breaking news that you wanted to talk about what is happening right now in Italy, possibly with Massoud, right?
Well, recently, literally 2 days ago, Mifsud has been seen in Milan and has been reported to be in Milan to the local police in Italy. This is a huge piece of news. I believe it's true. The person seemed to describe Mifsud perfectly. The person was hiding, and it's particularly alarming because we know that the press were speculating in Italy that Mifsud was dead, and theory that I never believed into. I believe that he was covered by the Italian intelligence, and I've been always saying that nobody can comfortably disappear from Earth and vanish like Mifsud vanished at the time that the Russia hoax, I call it hoax, exploded.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting to see how this news will be received in the United States. At the moment, we have a report at the police in Milan of somebody who said to have seen Mifsud with a woman.
Yeah, so Massoud, who you worked for, he apparently became involved with who became your husband, George Papadopoulos, who was an advisor to President Trump during the campaign. And he was accused of being a link between the campaign. This is the stuff that we were hearing coming out of, Adam Schiff and the Democrats that were pushing, the entire what ended up becoming the Mueller investigation between the campaign and Russia. And I guess a couple of years ago he went missing. So you're saying he has now been spotted in Italy. What does that mean? Finding him, what does that mean?
Well, it means clearly that there must be an Italian involvement in the entire sting operation. Italy, there is a reason why Durham back last summer went to Italy and then started the counter investigation, because we suspected that Italy was taking part to an intelligence operation with the FBI and the CIA. Mm-hmm. To me, the fact that the Mifsud, the Maltese professor, is not even Italian, is so highly connected at political level in Italy and speaks fluent Italian. I met Mifsud in Italian political circle at Parliament, so I know exactly the people he's familiar with. And when you mentioned Schiff, it's interesting because I testified under oath with Adam Schiff and the entire Congress on July 2018, and I shared with him this information and this name and surname of the people connected to Mifsud, including Vincenzo Scotti, which is someone a former Minister of Foreign Affairs in Italy, but known to be at the head of the Secret Services. So I believe that there is an Italian involvement. The fact that Mifsud today has been seen again in Italy makes me think that we are talking mostly of a Western intelligence operation. The famous Five Eyes and Russia has nothing to do with any of that. It's all clearly a fabrication created to prevent Trump to win the election and create an insurance policy in case he wins the election. That's my opinion based on the direct knowledge of the key player of the Russia gate.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your testimony, because you were interviewed, right? And your testimony, it kind of broke down the whole investigation. Talk a little bit about that for us.
That's a very interesting question. And in the beginning, the media got to know me as the fiancée and the wife of George. But the reality of my involvement in the investigation is my connection to Mifsud. So when the Congress called me to testify in July 2018, first and foremost, they try to suggest with the vicious question that I was myself a spy. So they try to say, do you work the a high level of European Union? Did you have access to confidential information? Did you ever work with Russians? This type of questions. To get there to Mifsud, when I got to Mifsud, they were resistant to accept my answers. Today, the transcript of my testimony has been released, is public, and we can read that I mention the connection of Mifsud with the Clinton Foundation, the connection of Mifsud to the socialist group of the European Union, its connection to the Italian political elite, and also to the Link campus, which is this famous spy school we know trains legitimately FBI, the equivalent of FBI agent in Italy. So it's pretty odd that Adam Schiff totally ignored this information. I didn't open an investigation on the witness of somebody like me, that at the time I was the only person in the America territory to have a direct knowledge of the key player of the Russiagate. So
Yeah.
interviewed many times, not only by the Congress, but also by the Senate and by the FBI.
So Simona, and unfortunately with the parameters of radio, we're limited with time here, so we got just a few minutes left. How do you see that relating today to the unveiling regarding the information we're seeing coming out regarding, for example, General Flynn and the unmasking? Is it all part of this same push to try and take out, the president and General Flynn, and you guys are associated with it? Obviously, George was with the campaign. Is this all part of the same push that you see by Schiff and the rest of them?
Absolutely. I think, if General Flynn has been exonerated by the justice, which means a lot. It's the exculpatory evidence has been detected, and finally justice has been done. We have noticed a pattern with the all advisor of Trump that have been targeted for the same reason, take down Trump presidency, and all of them, fun enough, have been charged with lying. When you think about it, we spot inaccuracy in their answers eventually, but there is no evidence whatsoever that none of them colluded with Russia. And we forget that investigation in the beginning is supposed to find out either or not the Trump campaign was colluding with the Russians. So it's all a manipulation. I think in the end, all the truth is finally coming out, and I'm happy I could contribute with my personal involvement, which has been very tough to handle, of course, because being interviewed by the entire American government was not easy. But I'm happy I could contribute with my witness to something really important. This professor is no Russian agent, and is the one because of who the investigation started. So he's really a key player.
Simona, I would love to have you and George on my long form show. I'd love to sit down with both of you together and have a long discussion without the commercials and all of this, because I feel there is so much more under the layers that we need to discuss, and I'd love to set that up with you and possibly have you on in the next short period of time. Simona, please tell everybody where they could find you and on your social media, and where they can learn more about you, please.
I'm on Twitter, Simona Mangiante. It's my surname, it's Italian surname, and on Instagram too, Simona_Mangiante_.
That's Mangiante, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Simona, thank you so much for joining us. And George is doing well? You guys are doing well?
Yes, it's doing well. Everything is
Thank you so much for joining us, Simona. And like I said, I definitely will be following up with you because I'd love to have both of you on to go into all of this, especially as we're seeing everything that is happening right now. And the media don't want to talk about this, right? As we started talking about at the beginning of this of this segment, the media want to just ignore the unmasking and they want to ignore the Susan Rice and everything else because it's an inconvenient truth for them. But Simona, I think, you know, what you're doing by coming out, you've definitely got the pedigree and the background and the credibility that people should be taking you seriously and listening to what you're saying. And I want to know a lot more about what's going on with Mifsud. If he's been found in Italy, what does that mean? I mean, the question I want to ask you guys when I bring you guys on next is, if they find him, is he going to be able to just blow this whole thing out of the water? It's going to be really interesting. Simona, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Greatly appreciate it. And I'll be right back with our last segment, hour number 3 here. Dave Sussman at Real Side Radio. Don't go away, folks. You know, one of the things about being on Real Side for Joe when I sit in is I always think to myself, 3 hours, what am I going to talk about? And it goes by every time I'm in this chair, every couple of weeks, it goes by so quick. And there's a lot of things that I wanted to talk about tonight, and I didn't get to it. But boy, that's really interesting. We will be bringing Simona and George Papadopoulos on together. I want to get their entire story, especially with the breaking news that Joseph Mifsud may have been found in Italy. Is that going to break it all open for the GOP and the right to try to obviously contest what is now, for the left, is fact that President Trump colluded with Russia? You can, I mean, obviously it's been proven it didn't happen, but you watch half of the media or 2/3 of the media and you listen to half the country and they still believe it as well. But one of the things I did want to discuss tonight with you, and going into our last segment here of our 3rd hour, I'm going to get to it, and that is this. I think inherently what the left are doing right now, and I'm not the first person to say this and I won't be the last, is they are using COVID-19, coronavirus, the Chinese virus, the Kung Fung flu, whatever. What I think Senator Harris is going to have a problem with me saying that. Sorry, Senator. Freedom of speech is still a thing in the United States. Okay. But they've been using this. They've been using the crisis for them to implement. You remember Cloward Piven, the strategy? Two sociologists, I think, from the 1960s. They were socialists, and they came up with the idea, the Cloward Piven theory, is that you overwhelm the system so it crashes, and then it could be rebuilt back up again in the mindset of a socialist economy. That you overload the system with debt and welfare, and it crashes everything. And the only salvation for the country is to rebuild a government in a New Deal style society, a Marshall Plan, if you will, for America that requires this massive centralized government. And this is what we're seeing happening right now. You think I'm a conspiracy theorist? You think that I'm just saying, it's like right-wing stuff over there that you see on the deep internet webs. You know, this isn't Cloward Piven. This is a crisis, and we're trying to figure it all out. No. Take a look. I'm going to give you Exhibit A. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's, what she calls the HEROES Act, which just passed the House of Representatives last week. Now, it's unlikely to pass the Senate, highly unlikely. But here is what some of the things were that essentially, we know that Congress will have authorized some $6 trillion in coronavirus measures this year, more than double what it has spent adjusted for inflation in peacetime. But here's the list in the HEROES Act that was pushed through the House of Representatives. I think only one Republican, Representative, what's his name, Stephen King from New York. I don't understand why he would have voted for this. He just wanted to push this thing through. He's retiring anyway. Only one Republican voted for this. Here's the list. Some $1 trillion for blue state budget repairs and pension bailouts. In other words, California, Illinois, New York, who have been abusing the pension systems, and anybody working in any public sector job, sheriff's department, fire department, teachers, whatever it may be, and have worked double overtime in their last year so they get 95% of their last year's earnings in pensions, basically have broken the states, and they're asking for a bailout, and Nancy Pelosi wants to give it to them. $50 million for, quote unquote, environmental justice grants to prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus. Justice grants, environmental justice. Restoration of the state and local, the SALT, the tax deductions for blue state millionaires and billionaires. This will become the biggest tax cut in history for the top 1% in income. But it is those in California and those in New York that want to push this through, because then again, that is their lobby. $20 million for the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Remember the JFK Center of Performing Arts? They got $25 million. Do you know what they did with it? Everybody knows what happened the day after. They fired everybody. They laid everybody off. So we've now got to give $20 million to the National Endowment for the Arts and Humanities. Extension of the $600 unemployment insurance supplement on top of the 100% replacement of wages through the direct the unemployment insurance benefits. So this is the scandal-ridden program that in some 30 states right now that pays people more money to stay unemployed than to go back to work. And we're actually seeing this with business owners that are taking some of the Payment Protection Program money, the PPP Act, and they're saying, I have to spend this money, otherwise it is a loan and I have to pay it back, but I can only pay for people that worked for me before COVID, and some of those employees are no longer, they don't want to come back because they're making more money on unemployment insurance. Why would somebody work at a retail store for barely minimum wage, just over minimum wage, when they can get $800 a week living in Arizona on unemployment insurance? That's what's happening right now. $100 million for OSHA funding. It means more regulations. OSHA, the Safety Hazard Administration. Okay. We should be deregulating, as President Trump just signed an executive order to do, not increasing regulation. You want the economy to come back as strong as possible over the next couple of 3 years. And yes, I believe it will take that long, even with President Trump winning re-election. This is major, folks. This is not going to be that V-shaped recovery they were talking about 2 months ago. But if you want to prolong the recovery, if you want to make it extract it out over years like Obama did, then do what Obama did. Increase regulations, raise taxes, and you will see this economy just completely, it'll be gone. And you're going to see 30, 40% people that own their businesses not come back. More in the HEROES Act. Extending unemployment benefits and financial aid to illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants. Extending unemployment benefits and financial aid. They've broken the law. They've come into this country. And now Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats voted to extend unemployment benefits and financial aid to illegal immigrants. Listen, I know many of them are hard workers. I'm a legal immigrant myself. Get in the line and do it properly, folks. That's all I'm saying. I've got no problem with immigrants. Any immigrant. I have a problem with people breaking the law to come into this country. And what the left, the Democrat Party, are doing is they're trying to incentivize that. Why? Well, we know the reason why. Illegal immigrants become Democrat voters. There's a lot of statistics on that show that's exactly what happens. So essentially, they're creating their own farm team. We've talked about it here on this show. I've talked about it on Whiskey Politics as well. And also, another item in the HEROES Act passed by the Democrats last week. This isn't hyperbole. Everything I've been talking about here was just passed by the Democrats, is a postal service bailout. So let me ask you this, good listeners, Real Side Radio. What do any of these that I just read off to you have to do with coronavirus? What does any of this have to do with preventing us getting the virus, catching the virus, spreading the virus? If your answer is nothing, of course you are right. But never let a crisis go to waste. Isn't that what Rahm Emanuel said, working for Barack Obama before he became mayor, left the White House of Chicago? Never let a crisis go to waste. This is exactly what the left are doing. There is a massive crisis of epic proportions happening in this country right now. 30 to 40% of businesses, if you listen to Howard Schultz, are not going to reopen. Small business owners. We've got devastation of epic proportions. Families that have invested blood, sweat, tears, invested decades of their lives into businesses that are no longer going to be here. And what do the Democrats want to do? They are trying to take advantage of a crisis by pushing through their leftist agenda down America's throat, Frogwa style. And the Democrats and the media, the sycophants, are all supporting this. You don't think the next election is the most important of our lifetime? It isn't a matter of what would the Democrats do. They've told us. They're telling us right now what they want to do. They want to essentially restructure the American economy in a socialist bent. That's it. And you only need to take a look at Nancy Pelosi's HEROES Act to see exactly what it is. Folks, I'll be back here again in a couple of weeks. It was great being here with you tonight at Real Side Radio. Thank you so much. Follow me at David Sussman on Twitter. Find Whiskey Politics on YouTube, Facebook, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, and Ricochet.com. Cheers, everybody.